Transfers! We haven't talked about transfers in a while, so let's talk about some transfers. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Tool, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Tactical Breakdown show. This is where we look at players in an analytical way, but for this one specifically, we're going to look at things slightly differently. Now, the reason for today's show, of course, is game day, believe it or not. Arsenal are playing Dundalk this evening, and for the first time in 2 years I'm not going to be able to see it, which obviously means that there is not going to be a raw reaction show straight after today's game, so apologies people for that. I can only profusely apologise for that. It's just I'm a victim of own circumstances this time around, I'm afraid. So don't worry, there will be a reaction show tomorrow. Of course, it won't be technically a raw reaction, but it will be a reaction, and I will have caught up on everything, and we will be able to discuss it, and maybe I'll have a couple of guests on as well to help out and talk about the game, because Arsenal, of course, have got an interesting time, which we expect to see plenty of rotation. But we'll wait and see. Anyway, today's show, because I still wanted to provide you with some content as we push ahead with the consistent daily uploads on TGT. So even though I can't be around for the game, I wanted to provide you with some content. So please could you drop a like on the video to let me know you're appreciating the consistent content, and drop a subscription as well if you're new around here, and turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. So, you know me, I love doing a little bit of scouting. I love looking around Europe. I love looking at young players and seeing who is available, who is lighting up the leagues, and who could improve the Gunners, ultimately. And today's show is no different. Today's show, I want to talk to you about a few players that I feel that Arsenal could realistically go out and sign. Now, when I say realistically, I'm talking in the maximum, the 30 million sort of range. I'm not looking at Jadon Sancho's. I'm not looking at Erling Haaland's. It's not realistic for Arsenal. We're going max 30 million with these five. So, obviously, if you've got some suggestions that aren't on my list of five, then please throw them in the comment section below if you feel that I've missed some out. Now, this is just five. It's not necessarily a top five, even though that's what I've titled the video. But this is kind of a TGT Tom's top five. Players that I think that we should maybe have a look at in the next couple of windows. So this is not nailed on. This is me having a look at players. Some of them have been linked. Some of them haven't yet been linked. So let's kick things off with number five. Now, number five, we've got Hamad Junior TRAORE, who you will maybe be aware of his brother, more so than him. Amad TRAORE, who of course is joining Manchester United in January from Atalanta. This is his, I don't want to say lesser known brother, because actually TRAORE is a fantastic young central midfield player. Now, he plays for Sassuolo. He's on loan currently from Empoli. It's a obligation to buy, so he will join Sassuolo at the end of the loan in 2021. Highly thought of centre midfielder with great sort of skill on the ball, ability to run and attack the lines, and he's a real threat, it's fair to say. And looking at someone like him, and I'm looking at Arsenal's team, and I'm just seeing that we haven't really got too much attacking threat centrally in our midfield, and to spend say 20 to 25 million on someone young, someone that's got Serie A top league experience, playing for a good club in Sassuolo. You may not have heard too much about them, but they are certainly on the rise and doing very, very well. You may have heard of Domininik Berardi, usually the one that comes up when talking about Sassuolo, but they've got some very nice players now, and they're doing quite well in Serie A overall in terms of when they got promoted from Serie B. So, yeah, or Calcio A, I suppose it's called now. But, you know, I really like this guy from looking at some of the stuff that I've seen. I've not seen loads, it's fair to say. I've not gone out and watched an in-depth amount, but I've seen enough looking through Y-Scout clips to see that this is someone that I think could definitely improve Arsenal. But you may have, as I said, heard of his brother a little bit more than you may have heard of Hamad Junior TRAORE, for instance. But he's a really interesting player and someone that Arsenal could effectively take a look at in the future. Let's go down then to number four. Now, ironically, none of these players are from the Premier League. They are from top leagues throughout Europe. Well, what I would consider top leagues. So from La Liga, I've gone for THIERRY CORREIA. Now, you may not have heard too much about THIERRY. He joined Valencia from Sporting in 2019. He's a right back, 21 years of age, Portuguese. And he joined for around 10 to 11 million pounds, 50 million euros. And Valencia, you may know of from looking into them, that they have been fairly poor, it's fair to say. Valencia are not exactly the club that they were a few years ago. Javi Gracia is currently the manager, is very frustrated with the situation he's got. He nearly, in fact, left. There were reports going out that Javi Gracia wanted to leave Valencia because they signed no one. They sold Coquelin, they sold Dani Parejo, both of them to Villarreal, and they've sold the likes of Rodrigo to Leeds, of course, too. And they've not signed anyone. And that means that they've had some really pretty disappointing performances. But one of the players that has stood out in that team has been THIERRY. It's been an opportunity for him to play at right back. Of course, Valencia's old right back used to be João Cancelo, who of course is Portuguese too. He then moved off to Inter Milan and eventually ended up at Manchester City. But it's really interesting to see that a young 21-year-old Portuguese right-back is coming through again at Valencia. Valencia have a couple of Portuguese players that are quite highly rated. Not only do they have CORREIA, but they have, of course, Gonçalo Guedes, who was at PSG previously and has now officially, permanently joined Valencia as of a couple of summers ago. So CORREIA is someone that I think has a lot of potential. He's certainly not a finished product yet. He loves attacking up the right-hand side and getting through, but also he's got the ability to defend. It's certainly the weaker part of his game, I would assume. I know. But in terms of looking at him as a quality product that could bring forward a replacement for Hector Bellerin, THIERRY is certainly someone that I'd be looking at in the near future. Maybe as soon as January if we're looking to get rid of him. In my opinion, we need to move Cedric on. I'm just not convinced by him. Mainsley's future for me is not playing at right back. Bellerin needs competition, really good competition, and I feel that CORREIA could be available for between 15 and 20 million pounds and be worth it. Valencia have a habit of selling players for under their actual value. Just see how much Coquelin and Parejo went to Villarreal for. Anyway, let's move on to number 3. Now, this one's someone that is going to be very, very highly chased, and that is Michael Olise, however you want to pronounce it. I should probably learn. But Michael Olise is a fantastic player. This kid, 18-year-old, Reading, he plays nowhere near like he's 18 years old. The confidence this guy has on the ball, the touch, the control, the dribbling, the confidence, the arrogance. I love a player of arrogance on the ball. That's why I love Thierry Henry so much. But Olise just has this fantastic ability to take players on, step over upon step over, play round players. Now, the thing that he does need to improve on is his final ball, his final product, whether it's a shot or a pass. That is the part that needs to be improved. And at 18 years of age, that is fine. That is something that will come with time and will be improved on. But for me, this kid is going to be something special in the future. I can't wait to see kind of where his career goes. And it's unbelievable. And I have to say, I have to give a shout out to Daniel Robert in the chat box, who's one of our expert members, and in our Discord server, we have a TGT scouting channel. So if you would like to join the Discord server, if you have to become an expert member to do so. And a massive thank you to all of our expert members, as always, for helping. But Daniel sings Michael's praises all the time, and is one of the reasons why I had a little bit more of an in-depth look into him. So our TGT scouts are out and about. They're getting the feels out. They're making contacts. They're ringing people up. They're getting the latest information, and then it bleeds into some content like this. So thank you again, Daniel, for the suggestion. It certainly was someone that I looked into and deemed him more than good enough to have an inclusion in today's video. So thank you, Daniel, again. But yeah, he is unreal. Of how good he is. He's an absolute baller, says Big Celt. So, Big Celt, Big Celt, however you want to call it. But he's absolutely fantastic. And I think he's someone that Arsenal should certainly be looking at going in for, playing in multiple positions, playing right wing, left wing, in centre attacking midfield. I know that we've got a lot of players on the wing positions. I get that. I think that he could be transitioned to a more consistent central player. And really attack the lines in between the two centre-backs and then feed in that final ball. But it is that final ball and the shot that this guy needs to work on. Often his attacks can come to nothing, but it's the potential that is there to be harnessed that someone that Arsenal needs to be looking at. At number 2, we have got PATSON DAKA, the 22-year-old striker for RB Leipzig, for Red Bull Salzburg. He's a striker, and he is unbelievably talented. He combines physicality and speed and velocity and technical skill better than so many other young players I've seen. Now, if you watched him in the game against Lokomotiv, he weren't that great. Unfortunately, he wasn't that great in that game. He had a pretty poor game. And other than that, though, it's not in closed analysis. It wouldn't give you a good representation of what the Zambian international is like. He is a fantastically quick, a great finisher. He has taken up the reins left by Erling Haaland, and it's as if Haaland never was there. That's how good this guy is that his goal record is fantastic. The way he scores goals, his confidence, the way he holds the ball up, takes on players, his speed is lightning. He can take from all-round players with absolutely no problem at all. And the price is one of the scariest things about him, and still how it's at the range that it is. In the summer of 2020 window, there were rumours of an £8 to £9 million deal being thrown around between clubs. I think that is certainly now increased. It'll be somewhere in the range between 10 and 20 million. But for that price, if you move on someone like Lacazette, I'd be thinking and looking, PATSON DAKA. This guy is going to be something special in the future, and certainly someone that Arsenal should be looking at. Now, there are no prizes for guessing who my number one... There are no prizes for guessing who the number one player is today. And I suppose he's kind of the guy that inspired me to do this video. I've spent quite a few hours today writing for 101 and building up starting a new project over there about young players. And this guy is kind of at the centre of my passion for young players. There are no prizes whatsoever for guessing in the chat box. I mean, we're going to have to start coming up with... We're going to have to make an emoji for the members for this guy soon, because he almost dominates every single one of our shows, which is great. I love the fact that we can talk about it so much. Let's not keep you any more suspense, even though I've done a really poor job of building it up. But the final one is DOMINIK. SZOBOSZLAI. People in the chat knew already who this was going to be. Oh, yeah. Vinny Eagle says, you just did a whole video to tell us how much you love SZOBOSZLAI. I mean, maybe, maybe, but, you know, it's hard to not talk about him at times because you have an Arsenal channel. But I've been thinking about maybe doing, not side channel, but on TGT, doing scout report videos on young players. And maybe that's something that we could look at. Maybe if you think that's something that we should do on the channel, then you can throw it into the comments and let me know. Now, let me just talk to you briefly. I know I feel like you know everything you could know about SZOBOSZLAI, really, but there is some stuff that you should know. To give you a little bit of a background around the Hungarian, his dad was a player. His dad was a player in Hungary, and he wasn't particularly majorly successful. He didn't play for the national team, as far as I'm aware, but he certainly had a massive impact on SZOBOSZLAI to the point where he started training him when he was 3 years old. And when he was 3 years old, he got to the point where they created an entire team in Hungary just so that SZOBOSZLAI could practice week in, week out his game. And eventually he got to the point where he moved to a club in Budapest for a year. And after just a year, a certain club in Austria called Red Bull Salzburg came calling, and he then spent the next 4 years developing in the famous Red Bull Salzburg Academy, and is now the player that you see today scoring goals of extreme quality against the likes of Atletico Madrid, against Lokomotiv from range, in the Euro qualifications for Hungary, and the free kick that he scored, the free kicks that he scored elsewhere, some of the other long-range shots that he's made. He is an unbelievably good talent. The ability on that right foot, the shot that he has, the power he generates from his shots in a knuckleball fashion is unreal. His crossing is brilliant. If you want someone to finally be able to take a corner for Arsenal, that would be great, wouldn't it? If we could finally have someone that could take a corner. Well, SZOBOSZLAI is an excellent corner taker. He whips them into dangerous positions. He plays generally on sort of the left-hand side. He skews towards the left, but he has the potential to play in the middle. And playing as a number 10 for Arsenal, I don't think he would solve necessarily all of our creative problems at such an early stage. But at the end of the day, for £24 million, which is supposedly his buyout clause, if we do believe that, he's just, yeah, he's unreal. Chakey says, is he similar style to Bruno Fernandes? I think there's elements of his game that are similar, but I wouldn't say he's a similar player in general terms. No, I think that Bruno is a lot more adjusted to playing centrally. He's a lot more technical. He wins fouls a lot more than SZOBOSZLAI does. SZOBOSZLAI is more powerful. He's more physical than what Bruno Fernandes is. I think that he has a higher ceiling than Bruno Fernandes does personally. I am slightly biased. But yeah, he is slightly biased. Am I kidding? But yeah, he in terms of defensive work rate, Akshat, that is certainly the weak point. I'll be very, very honest about that. You have to be honest when talking about these players, but SZOBOSZLAI's defensive side of his game is the area that needs a bit more work. He needs to be able to track back more. And the thing is that Arsenal wouldn't have been scouting for him for as long as I know that they have been if they didn't think that they could train that into him, if they didn't think that he has. Now, he has an engine about him, he has pace, he has skill, he has stamina. So there's no reason why he couldn't be a more sort of player that would track back. But it's an area of his game that is weakest. For sure. He's all about the thing is that he's proven it on the Champions League stage against other sides which you would expect to be better than Red Bull Salzburg, like Atletico, like Dortmund, like Napoli. Like these big teams that he's doing really well against. And ultimately, he's had a big effect on Jesse March's team. And I'm hoping that he continues to do that maybe in the red and white, not of Salzburg, but in the red and white of Arsenal. But yeah, as I said, there is a weakness to his game. That's in the negative side, the defensive side. But offensively, this kid is unreal. So there you go. That's my top 5 players that I think Arsenal should be looking to sign very soon, if they could muster up some money. Honestly, if he ends up somewhere like this, can you imagine if SZOBOSLAI ends up in somewhere horrible that we hate? How horrible would that be? Yeah, we won't talk about that. We're not even going to think about that. But there are loads of players out there in Europe that Arsenal could look to sign, more than I have time to cover in just a short 15-minute video. The one thing that I do want to talk about before I wrap up is this. Now, this is something called the Modern Footballer magazine. Now, the Modern Footballer magazine, this isn't an ad, by the way. I don't get paid for any of this, but I am in it. So I kind of wanted to talk about it. Now, if there's one other player other than DOMINIK SZOBOSLAI that you know on the channel that I love, it's a certain Spanish Real Madrid winger called Marco Asensio. Now, Marco Asensio, I was given the utter pleasure of being able to talk about in this book. And in this magazine, I suppose, rather than book. But the thing, talking about Asensio is great because his story, which I found to show you on here, the rise of Marco Asensio, there you go. His story is just crazy, talking about his family, what happened to him as a youngster, the issues he had with injuries, of course, then going to play for Real Madrid eventually after being signed from Mallorca. It's an amazing story, but you don't just get that. I mean, you look how much content is in this book. It's insane how much there is in this. There's so much in there. Now, I'm going to put a link. If you're watching live, the link's not there yet because I'm an idiot and I didn't put it in there. But if you're watching on playback, I will put the link into the description to get hold of one of these copies. They are limited, unfortunately. There's only a few. It's the guys over at Get French Football News and Get Spanish, German and Italian Football News. They're the people behind this. The likes of Adam White, who's been on the channel as well. He's the big brains behind this magazine, and it's unbelievably good. If you want to hear more from not just me, but Drew, Drew is featured in here as well. He's talking about Dortmund in the book. I think I'm not going to be able to find it now, am I? Here we go. So Drew's done a piece about Dortmund. If I should be able to just find it. Here it is. Drew's piece about Dortmund. Obviously, it's yellow and white and black. So there you go. Myself and Drew both feature in the book. There's plenty of other people that you've seen on the channel. Jeremy Smith, Rich Hall, they all feature in it too. So if you want to get hold of some information about football and see a funny picture of Ansu Fati on the front, which I think is absolutely brilliant, then yeah, it's brilliant to just see young players getting the credit that they deserve. I think it's Ansu Fati. I'm pretty sure it is. It's one of those caricatures where you never really know who the picture is of in the end. And I think we've got Axel Disasi maybe on the back of it as well. So it's a great bit of content. It's a great thing if you love your young players and stuff like that. So I will be putting it in there. Omar, what blasphemy are we speaking? Saying Asensio has fallen hard in the last few seasons. What are you on about? He was out for a whole season with an ACL injury. I'm going to find you, Omar. I'm going to find you. Don't you dare be speaking ill of Marco Asensio on this channel or you'll find yourself banned. And I'm not kidding. You don't talk about ill of him and you don't talk ill of Dominik SZOBOSZLAI either. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. I'll be back tomorrow to react to Arsenal's game against Dundalk. Again, apologies that there won't be any specific Raw reaction straight after the game today. As I said, first game I'm missing in 2 years. I think I can be given 1 day off in 2 years. I think we can allow one. But we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the game, hopefully with a couple of guests as well. But it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Let's just have one more image of Dominik SZOBOSZLAI on the screen just before we leave. Just look at him. Just look at him. He's a beast. We will see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.